Thank you, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm allowed to say protocol having been established. I hope I am, anyway. So protocol having been established. Very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Honourable Minister. Customers, that's what you are to me. You're all customers. So, as Grand Bahama's electric utility, we at Grand Bahama Power know we have a key role to play in a more sustainable, environmentally healthy future for Grand Bahama Island. We are delighted to join the University of the Bahamas as lead sponsor of this sustainable Grand Bahama Conference. The conference theme, Breaking Down Barriers and Shaping the Future, could very well be Grand Bahama Power's theme. It aligns so well with our focus on enabling a sustainable energy future for our island. As a responsible and progressive utility, and as part of the Emera family of progressive utilities, sustainability in energy, introducing renewable energy sources onto the island's grid has long been a goal at Grand Bahama Power Company. We know that customers are counting on our company for a more sustainable energy future. We also know it's the right thing to do for Grand Bahama today and for future generations. So on behalf of the whole GBPC team, I want to thank the university for the opportunity to be leading part of such an important discussion about the future of our Grand Bahamian home. So if I might take a few minutes just to, before looking forward, just to take a brief step back to talk about the path we've taken to get where we are today. Several years ago, in fact about 7 years ago, when following Emera's initial investment in Grand Bahama Power, we committed to a three-point plan, simple three-point plan to improve our service to Grand Bahamians from west to east. We plan to improve reliability, reduce and stabilize energy costs, and transform to cleaner generation sources. So the first two, I'm hoping the room generally agrees we've made some significant progress, improving reliability and reducing and stabilizing energy costs through a combination of investments at our West Sunrise plant and fuel hedging. The third one, the transformation to cleaner energy sources, we hadn't made such strident progress, but now is the time. We did set a target to include renewable energy resources, but we had some homework to do first. We have made some very interesting recent progress. I'd like to, and my colleague Nielsen and Delano are going to talk a little later this morning about some of our actual progress we made, but the innovative solar energy solution recently installed at Waterkey, that will provide a clean energy and eliminate environmental and safety risks involved with shuttling diesel across in small boats, shallow waters. Another environmental step forward made is using local biofuel. We're currently using that in our vehicle fleet, displacing about 10% of our gasoline and diesel usage. Customers need safe and reliable, cost-effective electrical service, but we know they're also counting on us to deliver a sustainable energy future for our island. The Bahamas government and the Grand Bahama Port Authority are keen to move forward and looking to enhance Grand Bahama's reputation as a technology leader. And we recognize our role in this endeavor and are a committed partner, ready and willing to do what we can to aid in the success of this vision. GBPC is committed to working towards a cleaner energy future. We are doing our homework to ensure investments in new clean generation are prudent and in the best near and long-term interest of all of our customers. As part of that homework, about a year ago, we quietly engaged the experts at GE Energy, General Electric Energy, to undertake a detailed study to ensure potential investments in new clean generation are prudent and in the best interests of Bahamians and Grand Bahama. We asked GE to do a couple of things. Identify the most cost-effective and most reliable renewable energy sources for Grand Bahama, and calculate the amount of renewable energy that we can safely and reliably be integrated onto the energy grid. The results of the study are in, and we now understand that starting now, 20 megawatts of solar and wind, a mix of distributed and centralized power plants, can be safely incorporated onto our grid. That 20 megawatts would account for about 10% of the total energy production on Grand Bahama Island. Over the next 7 years, working with GE, we've determined that 20 megawatts could be expanded to over 50 megawatts, 30%, by embracing the use of storage and grid modernization technologies. That means investing in renewable energy generation that will, over time, offset traditional oil-fired generation, reduce our dependence on foreign oil, take advantage of free domestic energy generated by the sun, the wind, and even other natural resources. Alternative and renewable energies are becoming better understood and are competitive globally. And in Grand Bahama, regional neighbors, including Barbados, where I spent the last 5 years leading the renewable revolution there, they're successfully incorporating these technologies today into their generation mix to the benefit of customers and the environment. I know we can learn from these experiences and implement the right technologies with the right partners for Grand Bahama to propel it to a technology leadership position, not just in the Bahamas, but regionally and beyond. So some specifics. As part of our renewable energy strategy, we're focused on several immediate initiatives, which I'd like to share with you now. In preparation for the introduction of utility-scale solar and other alternative energy sources, we have begun working on a fast response energy solution. It's a big battery, in other words. The state-of-the-art battery storage solution will be located at our Peel Street generation facility and will have the ability to store and supply 8 megawatts of power. This $7.5 million investment will not only help smooth the intermittent energy from variable renewable resources, but it will resolve the frequency power quality issues our customers are presently experiencing. Solar Sunrise. I'm happy to announce the summer of this year, we will begin construction on our first utility-scale solar farm, located again at our generation facility. This 3 megawatt array will encompass 11 acres of industrial land and output an estimated 4.5 million kilowatt hours a year. It'll power many Bahamian homes with clean, renewable energy from the sun and displace some heavy fuel oil imports, associated emissions, and foreign exchange. A total cost of over $5 million, Solar Sunrise will be commissioned in the spring of 2019 and will further support our efforts to maintain downward pressure on electricity rates. We're also pleased to announce our intention to partner with University of the Bahamas for the development of a solar energy park on the northern campus, which we're all going to visit tomorrow, aren't we? Yes. With both community and student investment, this site will likely be developed as an integrated microgrid solution and provide energy not only to the university, but to our customers as well. While still in the infancy stage, our vision is to allow UB to develop the campus as a regional renewable energy education center of excellence. In closing, I know there's a great deal of interest in how our electric utility is planning to evolve to support a sustainable economy, island and future for Grand Bahama, in the near term and for the next generation. I confirm that we are committed, and my colleagues in the audience are committed through a number of initiatives. Aside from the projects I've just described, we will be increasing our renewable energy generation portfolio. We will be further working on an economic development energy rate, which will be made available to new businesses and investors on the island of Grand Bahama in order to help attract and retain businesses that will grow our island economy. And we will be working with stakeholders to develop an accessible renewable energy rider program, which will provide investors with a reasonable rate of return on renewable energy investments, such as rooftop solar, whilst ensuring the reliability and energy rates for all Grand Bahama residents are impacted in a positive way. So I sincerely appreciate your time and attention today. I know there's going to be a great deal of relevant and lively discussion, and I encourage you to all participate fully. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning. I don't know about you, but from what I've heard already this morning, I could go home because I'm inspired. I am so proud that UB North has put on this conference today. to help us to gain an appreciation of what is possible and the work that they are doing. The vision that I hear is absolutely in line with my thinking and things that I've been talking about from my days in the chamber, about how we can cause Grand Bahama to be something really special and unique in the Bahamas and indeed in the world. And I think with this conference, with the Tech Hub conference that was held earlier, that we're beginning to see real tangible moves towards achieving that vision. And so I congratulate us. President Smith, Vice President Strawn, other members of the platform, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Despite its importance as a development concept and its galvanizing power globally, sustained development is still just a buzzword for many Bahamians. What do I mean by that? Well, ask the average person what sustainable development means, and they may have a vague idea about protecting the environment. They may say it relates to jobs or how well the country is doing. While these common notions are accurately descriptive, they only scratch the surface of what sustainable development fully encompasses. Many people would not directly connect sustainable development with ensuring access to water and sanitation for all, ending hunger and achieving food security, gender equality and empowerment of women and girls, promoting peace, social justice, inclusive societies, decent work, economic growth, and poverty reduction, education that promotes lifelong learning and fostering innovation. An exhaustive list, and don't feel bad if you can't remember that list. These are just 7 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals adopted by the Bahamas and 192 other countries in 1995 in the United Nations effort to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure prosperity for all. In the Bahamas, and quite likely in many places around the world, the truth is sustainable development is a powerful idea whose power, unfortunately, is lost in its meaninglessness to far too many of our people. I say that not because people don't care or wouldn't care. I say that because far too many people have no sense of ownership in the promise of sustainable development. Far too many people feel powerless to influence sustainable development communities. And with so much political cynicism in the world, too many people feel that sustainable development is just a buzzword, is just sweet talk from politicians claiming to care about helping people and doing good. Sustainable development, however, is fundamentally about our common future. It is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It is a principle with universal applicability. Although the government has adopted the Sustainable Development Goals, and we are striving to achieve all of the 2030 targets, the mechanism for private sector and civil society participation and public accountability is weak. We need to change this. Our country is the strongest when we all share a common vision and participate as individuals, communities, and institutions in advancing our shared goals. This is why I'm particularly pleased that the University of the Bahamas is taking a leadership position overall and centering the discussion of this conference to focus on Grand Bahama. I hope the influence of educational institutions like UB, but not just at the tertiary level, will help to increase the awareness and adoption of sustainable development principles at the individual, community, and institutional level, and move us further as a country towards achieving our goals. The problems we face today are complex, and they demand more from our educational system than we currently deliver. Our educational system still relies on the colonial mode of rote learning, which is only one of the ways it is currently outdated. We need a model that develops analytical skills and critical thinking in our young people. With this rapidly changing world, we are in uncharted territory in so many ways. So our future leaders need the power of their imaginations and the fullness of their creativity to think their way through solving problems. Right now, we are struggling to keep the educational system current, and we are failing to adequately infuse it with new knowledge about ourselves and the world that is continuously being generated by local, regional, and global research and discourse. I can only imagine the amount of UB research that is catching dust, failing to reach its intended audience to inform the way we think, live, and govern ourselves in the Bahamas. Suffice to say, most Bahamian children go through their entire formal education career up to secondary level and never hear the words sustainable development. So how do we truly achieve sustainable development goals if we are not passing the baton to future generations? If we are not teaching and empowering the stewards of tomorrow to live by and uphold sustainable development principles? For Grand Bahama, there are 3 educational priorities we should develop to advance these goals. First, as we enter this digital age, the opportunities in technological disciplines represent real opportunities for our young people. We need to expose our young people to more careers and opportunities in that regard. And that is one of the reasons the government is focused on a technology hub for Grand Bahama. Given our makeup, given the infrastructure of Grand Bahama, this is a viable opportunity for our young people to create new careers and economic pathways that do not exist in the present environment. Secondly, and I do want to thank the technology committee that the government has set up in Grand Bahama, who is advancing that work and doing excellent research. Secondly, I think we need to harness the power of education to widen our participation into traditional industries in Grand Bahama. For instance, the Grand Bahama shipyard, we are still importing hundreds of skilled workers when we have hundreds of unemployed young Bahamians. The question we need to ask is whether the skill sets and knowledge base of our people match the opportunities that exist. I think the answer is obvious, and we need our educational system to address this. Third, we need to invest more in STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering, math. Given our economic base in Grand Bahama, which is primarily industrial, this is of paramount importance. In fact, Grand Bahama has an opportunity to develop a large pool of experts in very specialized fields, particularly in the maritime industry and the industrial sectors. This will not only create opportunities for people locally, but it will make them marketable globally. The challenges we face as a country, unemployment, poverty, inequality, and climate-related disasters, are problems which need to be solved holistically through local and global partnerships. One of the ways sustainable development is being mainstreamed in the educational system and within the government is through the National Development Planning process. The National Development Plan Secretariat recognized the importance early on of linking the Sustainable Development Goals and key associated targets in our own National Development Plan. While the National Development Plan speaks to the entire Bahamas, it also focuses attention to Grand Bahama in 4 key areas: food security, maritime sector investments, and project framework, and culture. Under the Bahamas Poverty and Discrimination National Development Goal, the target is for the Bahamas to be a nation free of poverty and discrimination including discrimination based on gender, nationality, and disabilities. Grand Bahama is highlighted under this area when it comes to achieving food security and ending hunger. The plan calls for an expansion of farming in the Family Islands with the allocation of Crown land for the creation of hydro farms and mariculture facilities in Grand Bahama. And I am very excited to hear about a project that I think is being led by a group of investors with the help of the Grand Bahama Port Authority about this whole idea of mariculture in a very creative way. And I won't speak about that, I'll let them speak about that. But I think this is the kind of development that I believe gives us an opportunity to really distinguish ourselves and to provide something truly unique to Grand Bahama. And so I commend them and I look forward to the development of that project. This will help to produce high demand crops and seafood for local consumption and export. Under the Diversified Economy National Development Goal, the target is for the Bahamas to have a diversified and resilient economy that provides opportunities for the expansion and deepening of existing industries and creation and growth of new high-impact industries. Grand Bahama is highlighted under this area when it comes to the maritime sector. The plan envisions Grand Bahama as the maritime capital of the Bahamas. Overall, it calls for the Bahamas to have a maritime sector with a system of good marinas throughout the Family Islands, a sector that generates new employment and entrepreneurial opportunities for Bahamians. The plan supports the relocation of the Bahamas Maritime Authority to Grand Bahama, and I can tell you that's difficult. Nassauvians don't like to let go. Leveraging the Grand Bahama Container Port and Shipyard to attract additional investments into Grand Bahama, and a communication strategy for a strengthening maritime sector. Under the competitive business environment, the National Development Goals, the third one I wish to highlight, the target is for the Bahamas to have a competitive business environment for economic success that supports business development, innovation, wealth creation, entrepreneurship, and job growth. Grand Bahama is highlighted under this area when it comes to the investment and project framework of the Bahamas Investment Authority. The National Development Plan calls for the government to reduce the inefficiencies and overlaps identified in the current system and to remove the silos which lead to competition and turf wars. I just mentioned one just now. It calls for projects to be evaluated using clear, objective criteria that reduces political involvement and maximizes the value and benefits from the incentives provided. And it calls for small business development and incubation, which is, I'm very happy to hear, a focus of the University of the Bahamas Northern Campus. The plan also calls for a separate investment promotion arm or sister agency to focus on domestic and international promotions, including the promotion of Grand Bahama. And I'll segue there to say that one of the things that we know is an impediment to foreign direct investment, and more importantly, to local business development, is the cost of utilities. And so I am extremely excited to hear this morning of the plans of the Grand Bahama Power Company with respect to solar energy. I think this is a development whose time has long come, and I am very excited to hear of the investments that you're making in this regard. I know that there's a test site in my constituency over on Water Key, and I haven't gotten the results of that yet, but I am hopeful that and it sounds like the results are encouraging to the extent that you are investing further in this area. Certainly, the government of the Bahamas supports this effort, and I am, again, proud of the fact that Grand Bahama is leading the way in respect to developments in this area. I'm sure that BPL down in Nassau, if they haven't already, will be contacting you shortly to determine how we might be able to leverage the experience and the knowledge that you've gained in rolling out throughout the country a solarization project that is efficient, that is consistent, and that will be cost effective for the government and ultimately for our citizens. And so I want to congratulate you again, Grand Bahama Power, for leading the way in this regard. And I will brag once again once I get to cabinet next week. Under the culture national development goal, the target is for culture to be recognized as a driver and enabler for the sustainable development of the Bahamas. Grand Bahama is highlighted when it comes to the film industry. The plan proposes a policy to incentivize the opening of film and television studios in targeted islands, including in Grand Bahama, and for the country to become a leading destination for the production of motion picture and television projects. The last area I plan to touch on is the balancing act between development goals that sometimes compete. At its core, sustainable development is about the elusive, harmonious balance of nature and development, the tension between environmental interest and economic development. And this concern is very evident and seriously felt in Grand Bahama. It has only been recently exacerbated by the OBAN debate. And here is the reality. In Grand Bahama, the tourism sector has consistently been on and off, often due to lack of investment or inadequate promotion. It's basically flatlined recently due to the catastrophic impact of hurricanes, forcing the closure or the closure of significant portion of this particular Grand Lucayan resort property. While the tourism sector is still very, 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 very viable in Grand Bahama, and I want to stress that again, very, very, very viable in Grand Bahama, we have to appreciate that there is a significant increase in competition within the Bahamas and externally, and tourism success is no guarantee. We have reason to be hopeful that the industry's position in Grand Bahama will be reversed shortly. And I want to congratulate Ms. Karen Seymour for taking over the Grand Bahama Tourism Office. I have the utmost confidence that she is going to help us to realize this turnaround in very short order. No pressure. But we also have to acknowledge that the industrial sector has been the lifeblood for the island of Grand Bahama. The Freeport Container Port is just one of the industrial companies that anchor economic activity in Grand Bahama, along with the Pharmachem, along with polymers, along with the shipyard in Bradford. The industrial sector has provided consistently through the good times and the bad times. It has provided sustainable, durable careers for many young and not so young professionals in technical and administrative areas and in the professional fields. I dare say, many of the brightest minds in the engineering fields in Grand Bahama, and indeed the Bahamas, were produced through scholarship programs and from work experiences with the likes of Borco, Syntex in its time, and Pharmachem, and the other industrial companies based on this island. From an economic development point of view, we absolutely see value in the industrial sector, and we believe it is a sustainable model. We appreciate the environmental risk that industrial enterprises brings to a community, but we also appreciate that modern technology has substantially reduced these risks, as well as other mitigation factors that any responsible government puts in place to ensure the quality of the environment and the welfare of its people is maintained. We always strive to work in a symbiotic way to achieve balance between our environmental, community development, and our economic growth goals. The recent discussions of OBAN has brought this into sharp focus, and it is critically important for everyone to understand that the government of the Bahamas will not approve any project that is not able to demonstrate in a clear scientific way that it will be environmentally sound and sustainable. We appreciate the value of the environment from a touristic and a fisheries point of view. You got the word, intrinsically, this government will not enter into any development proposal that is going to cause the livelihood and quality of life of residents and future generations to be compromised. And I say that with the backdrop of the editorial in the Freeport News today, who says that I'm backtracking. And I want to make it clear, I'm not backtracking at all. In fact, I'm pushing forward. The point is, as is outlined in the heads of agreement, that the environmental protection and mitigation protocols are at the forefront of any discussion, any decision that the government of the Bahamas will make in regards to this program. So don't be fooled by the noise. I hear people saying that the government of the Bahamas can't cancel this agreement, that we've signed as heads of agreement without any environmental study, and as a result, we're locked into this project. Nonsense. The fact of the matter is we are a sovereign government. We have the ability to stop any project, anytime. The fact that we sign a heads of agreement does not mean that we are obligated to issue a license to operate. A heads of agreement is exactly that. It is an agreement. It says, you agree to do X, and if you do X, we agree to do Y. Any of the conditions in that heads of agreement that are not completed to our satisfaction renders the agreement null and void. At the end of the day, a project does not become concrete and licensed to operate until the government of the Bahamas has satisfied itself that all of the prerequisites are in place, that they are sound, and that we are satisfied that the project will bring benefit to the community. And just to further bring that point, in respect to the environmental assessment that is being done, contrary to all the noise, once the company is finished with its assessment, it will be reviewed in conjunction with the BESS Commission. Once they have done their assessment, it will be reviewed by an independent environmental agency who is specialized in this industry outside of the country to make sure that whatever impact assessment is done, whatever environmental management program is set up, that it meets the most strict and stringent international standards possible. And so, again, all the noise in the market has drowned out the good news of the potential for this development. And I only ask again for us to be open-minded and patient and let the process work. Because, again, while we understand the risks that are involved, in as much as we can from a non-scientific point of view, we also understand the development potential of our industrial sector and what that can mean to the lives of ordinary Bahamians who would not otherwise have an opportunity. So again, before the first shrub can be cleared, the environmental impact study must be done. and demonstrate to the government's satisfaction that moving forward is in the public's interest. And again, the heads of agreement spells that out, and these conditions must be met before a license to operate or develop will be given. Grand Bahama is a case study on the way development goals sometimes compete. The government has found itself in the unenviable position of making decisions about seemingly competing environmental and economic interests. I can tell you that our abiding principle in resolving these conflicts are environmental stewardship and risk mitigation paired with economic risk-reward analysis. The importance of sustainable development as a vehicle to advancing the common good cannot be overstated. In the Bahamas, the need remains for us to ensure the principles of sustainable development live and breathe in our culture. While the Sustainable Development Goals are not legally binding, governments are expected to take ownership and establish national frameworks for the achievement of these goals. The government of the Bahamas is fully committed to the Sustainable Development Agenda, and we want to see more national institutions take ownership and leadership in this regard. The University of the Bahamas and the National Development Plan Secretariat are certainly leading the way. And we charge all of you as individuals, civil society, the private sector, and the entire public service to share in this vision and help the country to reach its goals. Again, I wish you a very successful conference. I think this is what we envision the University of the Bahamas doing in terms of helping us to develop as a nation. And I am hopeful that the results of your discussions and deliberations and the presentations over the next 2 days will result in tangible action plans for you as an institution, but more importantly, for us as a government and as a country. Again, we live in a very diverse and very rich environment. And there's no doubt that we have not taken full advantage of everything that we have to offer. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, one, we do not believe in what we have, who we are, and what we are capable of. But two, it has a lot to do with the fact that the research that proves the sustainability and economic viability of what we have is in fact sound and worth taking the risk to engage in. So again, congratulations to you, and I look forward to hearing all of the results of your deliberations. Unfortunately, I will have to leave after a while. Got to head back to some Nassau people say, I say. So I got to get back to the Capitol for a series of meetings. But again, it's always a pleasure to be here. I don't get to be back in Grand Bahama as often as I'd like to be, so I take every opportunity to be here. Good to see you all. Good morning.